So take it away, Dave and 𝐫𝐞𝐯.
Hello and welcome to
Dave
and 𝐫𝐞𝐯's Shiny Side Out on WZZR, coming to you from Australia, the land down under, for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. Revolution Radio, radio. It's home to fresh, unfiltered ideas and conversations that have not had any corporate sponsorship. How about that? Especially in the chat room. So if you can, please come into the chat room. It's also a great place to get your merchandise. That is correct. This is show number 493. I was going to say 492, 290, and 400. 8 shows to 500. That's crazy. But it also means it's only another 8 shows until we talk about the hypothesis again, and there's a lot of updates for that. Now, catch us on air, online, and on your smart device or devices or whatever you have. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. If you missed the largest show, well, you know, that's okay, because you can go to, yes, that's right, you can go to the archives. Beautiful. And today she was talking to Steve Colburn, and it was a great show. I caught the back end of it. So Solaris, great work as always. And if you have never listened to Solaris' show, I urge you to do so. She's a researcher, experiencer of certain phenomena. She's a published author. She's done a documentary as well. I think a couple, actually. And many books, many books. They're all available on Amazon as well, if you wanted to have a look. So she's accomplished. She really is. And she's a great lady. So if you can catch her, please catch her show. It's just on before hours. I mean, if you stayed up this late, you can certainly catch her show that's on before us. Now, all you have to do to access the archives is go to the Freedom Slips webpage, Revolution Radio, and sign up for it. And it is not very expensive, but I'm not sure that at the moment there are any charges at all. Right? No, normally it's $5 a month, but at the moment I'm not sure that you would be charged anything at all. So
look, simply if you like what you hear, make a donation to the station.
Look, and donations are great. This is listener funded radio. Again, no corporate sponsorship, no corporate agenda, no corporate opinions, or fascist or anyist. In my opinion, an ism is not a good thing. Isms are not, and then I'm freely stealing here from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. An ism is a bad thing. You should just believe in yourself, right? And explore the cosmos, both inner and outer, forever and ever. And that's another great person that is no longer with us. I'm just quoting there. Right, now, before we get into the meat of the show, we would like to, solemnly and with respect, like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we are broadcasting our show. And for me here in Pemulwuy, it's the Direct people. And for Dave?
In Narara, it is the 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸.
Thank you, Dave. And we would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And now more than ever, you look at the state of the world. One day, I think Chief Sitting Bull said this. One day, Dave, when we've killed the last fish, and I'm paraphrasing, cut down the last tree, poisoned the last river, we'll find out that we can't eat money.
That's perfect.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
No, right? Yeah. Look. But before I start today, I would like to quote something that I quoted at the beginning of the show cycle. I know we're going to do the news first, but I'm going to give you a little quote here. Come, let me show you what you may be saving Earth from. Would you like to see an Arcturian, a live Arcturian? Why, sure, why not? This sphere that was 𝐫𝐞𝐯, no relation, floated across the room, and Keith followed. Keith took a step closer to look through the bars. He took a step back, several steps, even more quickly. He felt as though he were going to be sick at his stomach. He closed his eyes and swayed dizzily. Horror and nausea almost blanked him out, and he'd only had a quick, indistinct glimpse of part of the Arcturian. He didn't really know, even now, what an Arcturian looked like, but he knew he didn't want to know. That even seeing one behind bars and helpless might drive a human being mad. It was alien beyond all imagining. And that was taken from What Mad Universe by Fred Brown, the master of the short story. Right, now, but that's really more in line with the second hour. But I did want to put the quote out there because we are seeing many things. I mean, like I said, when things go bad, Dave, they go bad really quick.
Don't they?
There's no, hey, dude, it's going to be bad pretty soon. You better get ready for bad things.
It's already too late for the bad, yeah.
It's earthquakes in Haiti. And Haiti has got an interesting backstory I'll give you in a second. The complete collapse of the Afghan government after the unilateral withdrawal of the Allied forces.
Rifle throwers.
Rifle throwers is astounding. I mean,
hey,
it was an Olympic discipline. The Afghani military would walk away with every gold medal in that competition. Astounding. And then fires again, floods again.
Yeah.
Violent protests in Australia. I mean, violent, and we'll talk about that as well. And now I listened to this thing yesterday, Dave. I got to quickly say
what was
there was this spokesperson. I can't remember who, but I think it was just the spokesperson for the White House. Mm-hmm. He said, "Oh, the Taliban better let our people go to the airport, otherwise there'll be repercussions. There'll be reprisals. What, you're going to send another 20,000 people in to subdue the Taliban that you couldn't subdue in 20 years?"
Well, they did subdue them. The Taliban didn't enter again. All they did was spread them out, and they just went. They kept looking at their watch every once in a while. They're still here for a minute, right? And then as soon as the US turned their back, it's like bam!
It's like they flicked the switch. Flick.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna take all the cities back, and it was days. It was days.
Well, there was. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I should say. Remember how the US trained the Afghan army, right? Mm. Gave them weapons, trained them how to use them. Didn't train bravery. Didn't test the bravery of them, because rifle thrower or rifle chucker, right? Imagine you're in a platoon, and you're looking through a little slot, and there's people running at you, and you got your gun, you pointed at them, they're in your sights, right? And you're taught not to shoot until a bit closer so you can make every shot count, right? Awesome. And then you go, oh, hey fellas, I'm gonna take. How about we take a shot now? And then you look around and you're the only person left. All the guns are on the ground and they're running faster than you can catch up to them.
It's like during World War II.
Run away! Run away!
The Russians didn't have enough rifles. Okay, they just didn't have enough weapons to stop. Not for all the soldiers. So what they had machine guns and submachine guns, which the officers would have, and they would tell, they would give, I think it was like a rifle for every 4 or 5 men.
Jeez.
They sent to battle the Germans. Yeah, that's just brilliant. And they would send them to fight the Germans. So literally running at the German lines unarmed, which is always good. And anybody who would turn around, they would shoot. Right, so the Germans are shooting at you as you're running to them, and the Russian officers that have just sent you to fight with now no weapon,
with nothing,
nothing, they will shoot you run, away from the Germans. So clearly, what the Afghan army is missing is someone to shoot them in the back when they're trying to flee from the enemy. See,
well, of course, it's all too late now. Yeah.
But have you seen the hardware the Taliban have now taken hold of?
Oh yeah, I saw the list. It's nuts.
It's like Christmas and Hanukkah and Thanksgiving and every birthday rolled into one.
And now they own all these towns, right? They got all the people. Hey, happy days, right?
Happy days. But there's something else. So the thing is this, right? So we've got Hurricane. We've got the Hurricane Grace. We've got Hurricane Henry. Yep. Okay, we've got fires still raging in Europe. We've got fires in Northern Africa, right? We got fires in the US also still, right? And like I said, this deadly earthquake in Haiti, I'm going to talk about that afterwards a little bit. And it is just, I mean, you look this week, and then you look at what, you got to love Joe Biden, right? Oh, no, if we had stayed there another 10 years, wouldn't have made a difference. Well, yeah, I agree. But that means you can never leave. You should never have gotten in the first place.
That's correct.
Why? How many, Dave, tell me, how many Afghanis were involved on the planes of the 19 alleged hijackers on the planes? How many of those were Afghanis?
None.
Zero. And you know how many were Saudis? 18.
18.
There were 18
That's right.
Saudis. They didn't invade Saudi Arabia, did they?
But how many were Iraqis? None.
None. See,
Yeah.
in fact, this is interesting as well. We discussed this before. But
That's
people like
right.
Saddam Hussein or Muammar al-Gaddafi would never, ever work with someone like Osama bin Laden or with any of the Islamists because, in fact, the Islamists hated them because why? Well, both Muammar al-Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein were socialists. They were socialists. Okay, they weren't. They were Muslim, sure, fair enough, but they weren't leading Muslim or Sharia nations. They were leading socialist dictatorships, right? So they were. If anything, they would have killed each other rather than work together. Yet here we are thinking, oh no, they're all Arabs. Well, first of all, not the entire Middle East is Arab for starters.
That's
Turks
right.
aren't Arabs.
Yeah.
Iranians aren't Arabs. Okay, you've got a whole bunch of other groups living in there, like Armenians, right?
Yes.
For example, or help me out.
What
Kurds,
about Egyptians?
Egyptians are. Well, depends again.
That depends. Yes.
And the same with the Lebanese. I mean, you got Lebanese. I mean, Arab, yes, but not all are Muslim. In fact, the original inhabitants of Lebanon, around Mount Lebanon, they're all Maronites or Christian, right? And then the French and British came along, redrew the borders, and all of a sudden, what was formerly a Christian, area, if you will, is now 80% majority Muslim because the Europeans, after World War I, decided to redraw the map because it suited them. So, look, the entire thing is fraught with difficulty and complexity. But Dave, this week, I mean, I've gotten used to a fast news cycle, but there's so much bad news this week, right?
Yeah. So, I'll start, and actually, I just want to say that my daughter went into hospital, and we nearly lost her. All right, and it's been a really, really, really hard week for me, and I haven't done a really good job of the show notes today because I only got home like an hour ago from being down there with her, and my partner and I are swapping roles, so it's been quite tough. But what I've noticed from the virus that half the people believe is real and the other half don't, New South Wales beat Victoria in the most amount of cases per day. Yay us. And that was 725, and we got to 860 something. We got to 825. Now we're at 830, and it's still going up and up and up and up and up. And if it was a gold medal tally, woohoo, right? But it isn't. So what we ended up having, because the lockdowns just keep getting more severe and severe, and now they're on Monday, I think they've introduced a curfew from 9 till 5 in the night. And that's similar to the hard lockdowns that our poor Victorian friends have had to go through, and they're already in a lockdown and already have a curfew, and they locked our whole state down. They separated the Central Coast, where I live, from general Sydney, or Greater Sydney, and also the South Coast, which means now there needs a permit to go between those two zones. And police blocked the freeway. There was 30 police cars on the freeway just north of my exit, where they were stopping all the vehicles to go through. There's some really crazy times ahead, and I've had a lot of conversations with people in social media at my daughter's bedside, right? Because she's got her headphones on, using a laptop. What am I going to do? Sit there and watch her type? No, right? So here I am. I'm talking to people. I'm trying to tell people herd immunity isn't a thing, and the vaccines are 40 to 6% effective on the alpha strain. Delta strain's different. It's got a much lower capacity in the vaccine to prevent transmission, and just wait for the Lambda to come along. And people don't want to hear that. They want to hear the government message, and they're happy with the government message because it just seems so now, right? And then later on, this is what happens over the last year, Mackie. You and I, right? 18 months. People go, "Hey, you were right," and I go, "Yeah, I know," because the government's like 6 to 8 months old in their messaging. So they'll catch up eventually. Don't worry about it. I've had my Pfizer jab, Mickey, since we've spoken last. My first one, and I got my next one in a couple of weeks. And all my friends are saying, What happened to you, Dave? Did they get to you? No, mate, take your paranoid hat off, right, for a minute.
You wanted better 5G reception, right? That's what you did.
Oh, it's so much better now, right?
Right?
With all like you know me, Mackie, I love graphene. So with all the graphene in it, yeah, like, awesome. No,
I have some on my Nutella in the morning.
I'm getting stronger. So look, just for everyone's sake, stop the complaining. What I see is what's going to happen now is that if we're going to see the messaging change. So it's currently been herd immunity. We're going to see, we've seen it go to get the vaccine. And the next set of messages we're going to see is that those who are fully vaccinated can just get on with life. That's what I think we're going to see coming up. But that requires the passport so you can prove it. And now that all those mechanisms are occurring in the background so that you can have it as part of your federal, MyGov, or it can also be in your state application. So each one of the states in Australia has an application. In where we live, it's a New South Wales service app, and there's a facility in there to actually have your registration. So they'll probably have it in there, right? That's what's going to happen. But what I watched, Mackie, this week was I was looking at comparisons in countries that have a very high vaccination rate and have had Delta come through and kind of ruin it for themselves, but they haven't backed down. So the UK, for instance, right? It's open completely. Whatever, right? Just go about, do what you want. Vaccines, who cares, right? Whatever. Most of you are vaccinated, but they've got about 1.2 thousand, so 1,200 deaths per week is still occurring to COVID. And they've got 400,000 new infections a week. Nuts. The numbers are nuts, right? In Brazil, they've got the Lambda version down there now, the variant, and they've got a peak they've just had a peak of 40,000 deaths per week, and that's declined down to 11,000, but it's not a continuous, it's not a linear, it's smoothing out, and they've got 400,000 new infections per week. Indonesia, it's got 20,000 deaths per week, and it's got about 300,000 infections per week. These are quite large numbers, right? Russia, 10,000 deaths per week, 300,000 new infections per week. What we expect to see when they do open it up is this special messaging, Mackie, that I'm predicting this, I'm making a call, I'm saying it right here, right now, right? That the abandonment of care publicly in the messaging from the government to those who aren't vaccinated is going to disappear. There won't be any empathy for anyone who's not vaccinated. Now you're there, whoever you are listening, you're there, you're a staunch anti-vaxxer, right? Or you're being cautious for whatever the reason is that you've said no. And I'm not applauding you either way, right? I'm not harshing your gig. At some point, you're going to see this messaging, and you're going to see friends of yours. I know friends of mine who have said, look, I was like you, Dave. I didn't want to get the vaccine. Put me at the end of the list. I said, that's where I was. And he goes, but now my friends and family are giving me grief. That's the word I should say on air. Giving me grief about not having the vaccine. And that's family and friends who are supposed to always embrace and love you, regardless of what your choices are. But that's what's going on. So the government's going to have that same view. Once they open it up for all those vaccinated people, the poor people, this is two different classes are going to happen. There's going to be the vaccinated and unvaccinated, and they're not going to give you a lick of effort if you're unvaccinated. They're not going to care. It's going to dissolve, right?
Yeah. And it started happening in Australia, where if you wanted to travel to Western Australia, you have to prove that you have to have at least one shot of vaccination already. So that's actually in force right now. There are a few other things that are in force as well. So vaccination. See, look, a couple of things I need to say here. Number one, the vaccination does nothing for you if you are not vaccinated. So if a vaccinated person comes to visit you and you're not vaccinated, right? But even if you are vaccinated, it doesn't stop the infection. So you can still get sick, right? And it might make it less bad. So you probably
on a personal basis.
On a personal basis.
That's right. Just for you.
You might not. Yeah, you might not need hospitalization, and you may not die. Right? Again,
yeah.
The jury is still out on some of these things, but the point is, it doesn't stop the spread. So herd immunity is out the window. The funny thing is this: our premier, the leader of our state here in Australia, New South Wales, Gladys Berejiklian, she said, once we have reached a certain
here we go.
Percentage of people vaccinated, 70%, 80%, whatever, she said the case numbers will become irrelevant. The only thing we're going to focus on at that point are the people that we're hospitalizing and the people that are dying. And then she said something very interesting. This was this week. You know, every year, she said, we've got 600 to 800 people that die of the flu. Right? And we'll just have to live with it like the flu. So right now, the death toll in Australia, the official death toll for this particular disease, as it were, stands at about just under 1,000. And this is over a 2-year period. Just under 1,000. So let's call it 500 a year for now. I mean, roughly, there we are. So again, acknowledged, I said 975. We had 975 deaths. Openly acknowledged that the flu has killed more people, or normally kills more people than we've experienced in Australia, having died from SARS-CoV-2. Okay, so she said that, not me. She said it. She's right, actually. That number is correct. The other thing that we're seeing, like Dave has quite rightly pointed out, is this striation into the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And the social pressure that Dave was referring to is also immense. I mean, I look at Facebook, and it's become completely polarizing. There's there's no in between. There's no fence sitting really with this, except maybe Dave and I to some extent. Either you are pro-vaccination or you are against vaccination, and it's extremely violent, the exchange that I've seen.
Yes.
In that. Which brings me to another thing, Dave. And this is something I need to mention. The clashes that we saw yesterday in Melbourne.
In the protest, yep.
Yeah, not so much in Sydney or Brisbane.
In London,
smaller.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were violent. Now, I'm no stranger to violence. I did security work in my younger years.
I'm no stranger to love.
I'm no stranger to love. So I'm martial arts and all that. I've done a whole bunch of stuff, but. So I know what it takes to dish out violence and also take it.
The amount of effort required.
Yeah. But
to do what?
They were talking about broken bones, right? So police officers, apparently, I think 7 police officers in however many protesters were injured, but these officers had broken bones, and not just broken noses. Now, it takes a lot of effort to break someone's leg or arm bone or any other bone for that matter. A nose is easily broken. A nose truly is. I've had mine broken.
Heaps. I've got mine broken heaps too.
Yeah. It happens. And I had my arm broken. I had my foot was broken.
Yep.
Various things were broken in my body, but never in a fight, and never through violence. And I can tell you, it takes a lot of force to break someone's bone. So the level of violence that must have been present at those protests on both sides, mind you, because violence begets violence, must have been immense. So this stored up frustration, Dave. The pent up need to get out of lockdown. It is an expression of people's mental state in many ways. It's a bad thing we're witnessing right now. It's a very, very, very bad thing, right? Yet here we are, and as Dave said, I think it's just going to get worse. And he is right. And if these vaccinations are going to be required to do certain things, like for example, in the area where I live, if you're a construction worker that lives here, you have to get tested 3 times or every 3 days, or 3 times a week, right? And now it's coming in that you probably will have to get vaccinated if you want it to work. So there are now jobs where it is required for you to become vaccinated, like healthcare workers. Oh no, you gotta be vaccinated.
Flight crew, it's now compulsory.
Yeah.
Also compulsory to be vaccinated to fly.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, the federal government under Scott Morrison in Australia has now put protections in place that protect employers that do not force their employees to become vaccinated. Now, let me break it down. If you had 100 staff on a factory floor, but you don't want to mandate that they have to get vaccinated, and then someone gets sick and makes everybody else sick, they then can't come and blame you for it. Right? That's the protection which I find actually that's actually reasonable in my opinion. I mean, either you force people or you don't. If you don't force them, then you should offer employers or protection. Yeah. So I'm not forcing my employees to become vaccinated. Great. But if they get sick on the factory floor or on the shop or whatever, it's not my fault.
But there's a flip side. There's a flip side, right? So imagine if you're an employer and you want your business to operate, you want to make it safe for everybody. Okay, you've listened to all the government messaging, and your choice to then mandate that all employees must be vaccinated. They're also the employer is then also in has an indemnity against a lawsuit, which if the person had any adverse effects, while they normally would have made a choice not to have the vaccine, but then were forced to because of their employer cannot be pursued for any any monies.
So, but it's illegal in Australia to force anyone to be vaccinated as an employee. You cannot do it.
Yeah, but they're currently talking about doing it.
Yeah, I hear
and the government is also helping them because they're going, but what happens if something happens? We don't want to get sued. We'll just write a law that says you can't.
So nobody can get sued over anything anymore ever because the manufacturers are indemnified.
That's right.
The administrators or people that administrate the GPs and the pharmacists, etc., they're indemnified.
Yeah.
So this really is your dime you're on now because no one else can be blamed. I mean, we all know these are experimental vaccines. We all know that no longitudinal studies are available. I mean, the longest study we have now is ever since like a year.
Yeah.
If that year, right? But again, not in numbers. And we don't know. We know what the short-term effects are. We know blood clotting, blah blah blah, whatever. Right? We know what happened with some of these vaccines. What we don't know is what it's going to do in 2, 3, 5, 10 years. We have no idea. Right? Will it do something? Who knows? But sorry, before I forget it, Dave.
The ice cream truck. Ice cream truck.
Every day.
Every day, ice cream.
Every day, and they flock to it.
I know. India has just registered a DNA vaccine.
What?
Yes, for the virus. So not an mRNA vaccine, but one that uses DNA. They've completely done a custom, not an adenovirus one, but a custom one, and registered it. I'll send you a link. It's just crazy times.
So I didn't realize that coronavirus had both RNA and DNA, because a virus normally either has RNA or DNA.
It doesn't. So what they've done is they've gone down the route that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine applies, which is an adenovirus, and you might know that as a chimpanzee virus that the humans have never seen before, and therefore it can get past all of our defenses. The method in which it replicates is actually inside the nucleus of a cell, not in the cytoplasm as in the RNA vaccines. So what India has done now is made not a self-replicating. It still needs to have a method in which it hijacks, but it reproduces. From what I understand, I still got more reading to go. And it produces the mRNA as an output. It still does spike protein outputs, but it's
manufacturing inside your cell.
Yeah, so that is. And I'll get back to you for next week's show and talk about it.
That actually, look, honestly, if we can do that now, we can turn our cells into all kinds of factories.
We could do anything. That's right.
Okay. Please, if there's any more research, let's have a look at that, because that would open the door to all kinds of things we would not like very much. But one thing I need to say here is this. So we are now globally, I'll talk about the global situation now, Dave. We are now in the middle of wave spike number 3. Okay?
It's evident. You can see them in the graphs, right?
Yeah, completely. Completely. And it's clear as day. Now, the first spike or the first wave, let's say December, January 2020, right? That's when it, December 20, January 21, that's when it peaked and then fell down. And then the second spike probably, I'm going to say April, May 21. And it declined again with this lowest point around, I want to say, mid-June mark. But now we're seeing the third wave, the third spike, which is which is as high as the first. So we had the first wave, which spiked up above 750K, but it came to 736,000, 700,000 infections a day, etc. Then we had the second one, which spiked up almost to 1 million a day, 900,000. And the third one is as high as the first one. Let me say this again. The first wave we're going through now, the third wave we're going through now is as high as the first wave. The number of deaths is lower significantly. It is, by probably 7,000 or 8,000 a day. But the rate of infection is the same. So is this the I don't know, do we have now more effective treatments? Is it the vaccine? In fact, is it helping us not, to die from this? I mean, 10,000 deaths a day is still horrendous, globally speaking, right? But certainly the number of infections is equal to the first wave. And again, it's only the number. These are the number of reported deaths that we know about. We know the number of reported deaths are probably bogus. We also probably know the number of reported infections are bogus, but the trending, I think, is accurate. The numbers are probably much higher in either case. Yeah. But the trending or the sign, the wave that we're following is probably accurate. So vaccinations do nothing. We say this. We've said it. Vaccinations do nothing for infection. They just lessen the impact, seemingly, right? But again, with potentially unknown side effects in the future. Now, in order of full disclosure, Dave just told you all that he is fully vaccinated, and so am I. I got my second Pfizer shot 2 weeks ago. Okay, still standing. I haven't grown a tentacle out of my neck or anything like that. Long-term effect, don't know. I'm as fit as I was before the shot. I didn't even get a little bit flu, nothing like that. But so
I don't know. My second Pfizer is on the 7th. Right. So local pain at the injection point, and otherwise all good. There are some side effects that the media is talking about, and there's some published media articles about it, and one of those was heart inflammation, which prevents my daughter getting it. So, because the only risk so far, there's no test, and they're wanting to in Australia. They're wanting to reduce the age of the vaccine, administering it to younger and younger people. And if it gets to 12, then both my daughters will be eligible. But it does raise a good question. There was a medical professional that I was listening to, who was an actual GP, and he was concerned about the people who were in their teens from a replication, human replication perspective, without saying too many words there. I think some of these conversations need to be had. They're not going to be had by me. I'm not an expert. And I think the longitudinal studies are going to be the most important out of all of this. Yeah. So expect, where the big failure in all of this is quarantine. I can't say it enough. If we were to clean up all of the virus within Australia in a lockdown, and if we saw no new cases, we waited 6 weeks, there wasn't any more transmission, and we wrapped it up, then established a tremendous quarantine border, and where everybody coming in had to stay by by the law, had to stay in a facility and could only be released when they were clean of the virus, then we could all get back to business and it wouldn't matter. It just wouldn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
But the trains left the station, the horses bolted. There is almost no way that we can get back to normality, whatever the new normal is. It's a crazy time. Sometimes I envy the US by opening up. Sometimes I envy the UK for opening up. But personally, I think we should be given a choice. I think we should all have a choice. And if you decide, because the information's changed along your choice route, that allows you to make a decision again, right, or reanalyze it, your triage, if you will, and decide at some point that, yes, you think it might be okay, given that, let's just say there's almost 5 billion doses administered on the planet. There's been a lot of side effects, but we hear more of the side effects than we do the no side effects. It's only because social media seems to amplify everything. Lockdowns amplify everything.
Of course.
And because we only see the news from a specific slant in our social media, then it does taint our opinion. And it does. I remember when, I'm going to say it again, Mickey, heavy mass object was coming through the solar system, going to wipe us all out. We had a heightened fear level because of 2012 and the Mayan calendar, and it's the end of the world, which wasn't true. And Mickey and I are on record as saying that it wasn't going to happen. All of those things, they all contribute. Now, misinformation is one, and I'm segueing to a story here. The most important thing is to get a lot of news sources so that you can easily identify what would be misinformation. What's now Twitter is trialing kind of disturbs me, Mickey, because we're going down that social media justice line. Twitter has just said that they're going to have a misinformation button that you can press on a tweet and it gets taken down. Now, there's going to be some abuse on that button.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, because imagine every flat earth post, I'm pushing misinformation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm going to push that. Let's see if they get deplatformed for misinformation. Yeah, because that supports the flat earthers' view. Hey, I didn't get taken down. It's not misinformation. Woo, right? The flat earth is real. Yeah? Say that to the guy who built his own rocket. So the problem here is it doesn't take very much to be socially engineered to believe one story, and then anything else that comes up, AKA or a la 1984 style, you believe one narrative, everything else is wrong, so anything else I see, I'm going to personally hit that misinformation button, simply because I haven't ever heard that side of the story before. The majority word wins. The winners win. Neki, what's your thoughts?
Look, the thing is this, right? If it's not policed and there's no recourse for any of this, which we have experienced already with YouTube, for example, right? Then there'll be no more information, because somebody is not going to like something someone else says. It's just the nature of the beast these days, and we're all sitting in our armchairs at home, and we're just not liking things for the principle of it, or I mean, there will be nothing ever. I mean, it is almost laughable if you think about this. If you enable this function, right? Yes. And it truly, if it's only one person that's required to sync a post, there'll be no more posts.
That's right.
Because I mean, the thing, some people might just do that out of spite, or if it happened to you, then you go, you know what, I'm gonna, call.
Yeah, retaliation. That's right.
Yeah. So the internet, the social media component of the internet is going to go down in a flaming war. That's what's going to happen. Okay? That's what. I'm sorry, but this is like the Titanic, hitting a wall of ignorance and stupidity, not an iceberg. And that's what would happen here. I'm astounded that would happen. Now, if this were some kind of feature, like you can do this today, you can report a post, you can report an email.
You can.
Then
you can report a YouTube clip too. That's what I reckon happened to us.
And then it's investigated. If it's investigated, sweet. Okay, you gotta. Okay, what was the complaint? Okay, the complaint was blah. Okay, is it valid? Then you've got a panel or whatever it might be. Can't be an algorithm because you can fool algorithms, right? But you have a panel of people, and they go, well, no, this was really groundless. This was baseless. This was spied. Whatever, right? It's without.
They would be busy for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, the thing is, we no, but see, this is what people used to do on the internet a lot. But you know those safety and security companies that sell safe websites.
Yes.
Like safe browsing, parental locks, and all that. So there's actually rooms full of people that check websites and put them into the not safe category. So your child doesn't accidentally, go to a death metal site or whatever it might be, right? So that's what they do all day. I mean, that's their job. They find websites that are dangerous, right? And then they list them, and that's called the blacklist. And then it's the opposite. It's a whitelist. That's a list of sites that are allowed, And whitelists could exist for children, for example. All the Disney channels or whatever. It's a whitelist. So you say your child is safe over here. Blacklist, nope, can't go here. So this, I mean,
we use those for spam definitions as well, right? Yeah,
completely. I mean, it's a concept that already exists, so that's not the problem. But if you just leave it up to the individuals,
not through.
No, it's stupid. It's like the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Let's just do it all of a sudden.
Let's just go. I mean,
and by the way, we're going to advertise that we're going to pull out, and then the Taliban went and met with China. And then hopped in and just enacted this like a blitzkrieg. In fact, it wasn't. They were just driving in their jeeps, And so, where is there all this opposition they talked about?
It's astounding,
There wasn't any,
this, right? We
they were taught by the French.
Yeah, it's cheese-eating surrender monkeys. But we're moving into a world where it doesn't make any sense anymore. But the thing is this though, Joe Biden never made any secrets over his opposition. When he was vice president under Obama, he had the same opposition to the presence in Afghanistan. And look, I agree with Joe Biden. America should never have gone into Afghanistan in the first place. Yeah. Okay, because do you remember where Osama bin Laden was caught? Wasn't Afghanistan.
No.
Caught in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Okay, just to be very clear here, and they never found those Al Qaeda, Dr. Evil kind of layers, with 20 floors underground, air conditioned, with Deathwing Ray fighters and remember those drawings they showed to the UN? Oh yes, these are mountain fortresses. What? No,
there wasn't any.
No. It's beggars belief. I mean, people go, oh, really? Yeah. And then people like Dr. Kelly, David Kelly, he was killed for his troubles, right?
That's right.
I believe that anyway. So we are living now in the idiocracy that we always feared we would. That's where we are. That's where we are. Thank you very much. And the thing is this, you can't get away. There's no way to get out of this because you as a sane person might see it, but where do you go? Where do you go?
Mickey, the social media thing and how crazy this world has turned out. Yes, idiocracy is a tremendous example of just what that can be like. When my ex-wife was skating, this is still while the wall was up, and she's in Europe and the Eastern Bloc countries and all of their restrictions. The black market was so rife, but you couldn't say anything bad about the government. You could buy jeans if you had the money, right? You could buy a bicycle that went forward if you had the money. But say something negative against the government, and the next thing you just disappear. Yeah, you just disappeared. People just disappeared. So you couldn't trust anyone in that environment, and this overreach thing is is crazy. Now, putting it in the hands of an individual, that is nuts. That is so crazy. Because you imagine, like in that Star Trek episode where, it's the end of your life and people get to vote whether you're a nice person or not, and if you don't, you're just killed. Star Trek. However, in this new reality that we're living in, where the people in Twitter who banned the right view openly, banned the president of the United States, those people are deciding that this is now the way to go. The people that allowed that didn't find any fight on the left against it, but the left is going to profit from this, because anyone with the right opinion, I don't mean correct, I mean just right wing, anything left of Stalin, everything right of Stalin, right, is going to be deplatformed. They're going to say, no, that's misinformation. You wouldn't be able to have an open conversation with someone from the extreme left about, how democracy kind of looks like it's a bit changed. No, misinformation. You couldn't talk about anything at all. And I think the greatest fear here, and I sound like I'm on the right wing. I've got in my, I'm playing chess. No, chess. What would they play? I'm playing polo with my right wing, fascist dictatorship leader. That's what it sounds like I'm doing, but I'm really not. Because I woke up one day when I was in the middle and everything moved to the left so far I couldn't see it on the horizon, and it made me look like a right-wing crazy nutter. Nothing actually happened. Just that the left went so far away we couldn't see them anymore. Right? Like, what happened? What happened to that? When did I start agreeing with Sky News? That whole thing that happened, that made that happen, is still surprising me. Now, all of us on where we were standing in the middle are now so far right to the people who have now left the screen and gone out of shot on the far left, can now, with their power, with this coming trial, can just brand us all as ready to get deplatformed. I think that's the kind of crazy thing we should never have been able. In fact, what happened to free speech? Oh, that's misinformation, right? What happened to that? What happened to open discourse? Who's doing the open discourse now if it's none of us?
See, but this is the thing, and this is something, I think I mentioned this before, but I want to say it again. I mentioned it a few times this week to a whole bunch of different groups I talked to. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you.
Yeah.
Right? We've forgotten that. We've forgotten that disagreement doesn't mean enmity. It just means I have a different opinion to you. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We should have different opinions from each other, because that's how we get anywhere in the world. That's how new ideas are born, out of the synthesis, if you will, of two opposing viewpoints. Maybe even not opposing that much, but maybe not completely aligned, right? And it's okay to have a different opinion. So, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I have nothing against anyone that is a flat earther. That's your opinion. That's who you are. Okay, cool. Look, I'm not convinced. That's me, right? And I need some serious evidence before I believe it. But as far as I'm concerned, you can believe whatever you like. It makes no difference to my life, right? Not really. And if you feel that that's where it's at, great, good for you. But I would like to meet some of you that are willing to discuss it in an amenable fashion. So rather than fighting, let's discuss this issue at hand, explain the evidence, and then, okay, great, now I give my opinion and my evidence, and then we'll see if we come to some kind of middle ground here. Or, I mean, this is an extreme example, of course, but it's like that with anything. Any kind of thing that people can disagree on. And you know why, Dave? I think it's because we are so easy. It's so easy for us to voice our opinion, to become part of the discourse in a public fashion, through social media.
Armchair conversation. That's right.
I mean, it's like I said it before, and I say it again. We seem to be living in a knowledge democracy where your ignorance, not you specifically, but anyone's ignorance, is as good as someone else's knowledge. It's not. It is not. And the funny thing is, I see these memes popping up now, and maybe it's a thematic thing for me, but there's this guy, it's a cartoon, and he goes, right, okay, I'm done with being an expert on infectious diseases. Now I'll be an expert on the abortion debate. and really, they are neither. And there's another one where a person goes to hell, and Lucifer says to this person, "Well, professor, you've studied your field for 60 years. You've written many papers. You're well received in your field of expertise. So do you truly know what you're talking about? This is Bob. Bob knows nothing about your field of expertise, but he will lecture you on it for the rest of eternity." which is where we are. In some, it's like an idiocracy. They're watering is the wrong word here, but they're putting liquid onto fields that is in fact Gatorade.
That's right.
Highly acidic or alkaline. I can't remember. One or the other.
No, it contains. What does it contain? Do you remember?
Nothing good.
No. The advertising suggested that it contains something.
What was it?
Yeah, keep going, and I'll have the word in a minute.
No, I can't remember, but yeah. So and then the guy that is transported into the future somehow, he goes, "Oh, we should use water, like in the toilet," and lo and behold, it does work, and the crops blossom, etc., etc. But my point here is that we cannot. Electrolytes, that's it. They're good for you, right? Electrolytes, that's it. Yeah, it's flooding back. And so you do need to do your research, and research is not just listening to someone else or watching TV. It's reading books and finding sources and going to primary sources. So Dave and I, we've gone right back to cuneiform tablets, and we've looked. Well, I know Dave has, but I've looked at, for example, the Epic of Atrahasis. I looked at 4 different translations.
Yep.
To come up, with the text that you look at the ones that have the most agreement. Because every translation, of course, will translate things slightly differently, and sometimes you need to take them all into account for nuances in translations, which are the important thing. But we do our research. We go to primary sources, right, when we can. We talk to people. We've talked to a whole bunch of primary researchers, like really respected people in the field. We're not making up stuff here. We're not taking it from the corporate media. The corporate media gives us a baseline of stuff that the government and the corporates want us to know. That's the baseline. That's what the stuff you're allowed to know. Okay, so whatever you see on the news, on TV, even on large parts of the internet, that's the stuff you're allowed to see. Go and find all the stuff that you're not allowed to see, that no one is showing you. Go and find that. The banking thing. So I remember there's a guy, one of the sales guys I work with, and we were just talking prior to a conference call starting. We were just having a chat, and he goes to me, and there were a few other people on the call. Listen to Mackey's radio, Dave Mackey's radio show the other day, and
fiat currency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he said, "Well, it's all nonsense, all BS. It can't be true, right? So all the things we presented." And then he said, off he went to do his own research, and he goes, "It's all true. It's all completely true."
That's right.
And it's MG, right? And I thought, oh, great, good on you for taking the time to take a look.
Yeah, sure.
Because we don't make stuff up. I mean, fiat currency is probably the most pertinent one, because I really feel very passionately about it. And fractional reserve lending and the entire economic system we're living under. But it's true. Everything we've shared with you is completely and utterly factual. And when people hear it, immediately they think it can't be true. It cannot possibly be true.
Yeah.
Right?
But
because
there it
it's
is.
so far. Yeah, it's so far out of their comfort zone that, because if you accept that it is true, even some of the things that we say, not all of it, but some of the things, you have to question everything, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no room for you to maneuver. You're living in the box, but we've shown you that the actual facts are outside the box, right? Oh no, put me back in the box, Dave. And there's the music. Don't go away.
Yeah, we'll be back after a short break. Thanks for everyone in the chat room. Hang on. It's not very long, and we'll see you shortly. If you're on YouTube, there's a new stream for the next hour.